You say back to me. Okay, one more time. Aloha. Please, everyone stand up. Take a stretch. Please, deep breath in. Okay, you can be seated. Adanka, I'm very excited to be here today and to share some things with you. My students say I speak very fast when I get excited, so hopefully I'll try to speak slowly. Okay, so up here there's lots of different words. Some of you might have seen these. They say landscape architecture, nearby nature, biophilia. What do you think these all mean? This is a real question. What do they mean to you? Have you ever seen any of these before? Yes. Okay. So what do these all have common, do you think? What do these have common? Any ideas? Can you look out the window here? What do you see? Plants. Okay, plants, people, society, lots of different things. And these are becoming more and more important, and you're hearing more about these every day. So I run the Tropical Landscape and Human Interaction Lab. And basically this is a multidisciplinary research lab, and it's basically looking at how plants affect people and how we use these within design and within the places we work and live. And it's really a combination of horticulture, environmental psychology, sociology, psychology, landscape architecture, all different things that make us human to try to find out how plants and the environment affect us. And I try to look at different tools to discover these. So on the real question, how do you think we got from places like this to places like this? Why do you think we went from natural areas to places like this? This is a real question. How did we get from that? Why are we in this room right now instead of out there sitting? So what do you think are the reasons for that? So you still live out in nature. Now we live in buildings and classrooms. So why do you think? Any ideas? So work is provided in cities. Perfect. What else? How many of you in Hawaii, we have these things we drive in? Anyone have cars here? And then, everyone seen Star Trek before? Star Trek? And they have those communicators. We have, they're called, sorry, I got a little bit of jet lag, sorry. Cell phones. How many have cell phones? So maybe technology. So technology, and then we're all people, right? And we all come from different places, so population. So maybe population, technology, all these different reasons are why we went from here to here. Now I heard that here in Austria, you have something that's white. It's cold. We don't have it in Hawaii too much. Snow, yeah, snow. So when it's snowing outside, it's kind of cold, right? So we build things and we have heaters so we're comfortable. So we have technology, people, we want comfort. We want to be at ease. So maybe these are some reasons why we went from nature to more cities. But within this, there's kind of a disconnect. And so I think plants are really the foundation, both in agriculture and in horticulture. This notion of plants is very important, but I think we get so busy and so technological, we kind of forget these things. So plants are important to us not only for the things we eat, but as we can see, the things we build. And they're very important for like food, fruit, veggies, different kinds of spices. This is like so basic, but it's amazing how we take it for granted and how many populations around the world, they forget about this, yeah? Okay, so plants are very important to us. Environmentally, it's very important and very common that plants do things like they replenish oxygen supply. They prevent soil erosion. They help cool the neighborhoods. They help filter dust. Are there any other environmental things that plants do for us, do you think? Anything else that's not up here? Can you think of anything? What else do plants do environmentally? Excellent, good. Who can add to that? What else do plants do environmentally to help us? Real question. Excellent. Enjoyment. What else? Snow. Exactly. So protection, people. So there's a lot. We could just talk for like another half hour about environmental aspects of how plants affect us. But on the other side is a social aspect, kind of like my fine young friend here is doing. These social and aesthetic aspects of plants are very important as well. They help improve property value. There's been research that if you have plants in a very nice landscaped house, you can get at least 15-20% more of an asking price in the States. So when I bought our house, just within 2 years, it went up $100,000 in Hawaii. And of course, it's nicely landscaped, and we have a new library. But it's amazing that value of this plant aspect. Plants provide a sense of community. They provide parks, places to go and relax, have lunch. They foster a sense of well-being, and they offer aesthetically pleasing environments. So here, when that white stuff, snow, right? When that snow comes, your plants go to sleep here, right? They kind of get naked and get brown, whereas Hawaii is always green. So it's amazing that when you go to sleep, our body kind of changes. Whereas in Hawaii, besides the nice warm weather and the surf, we have this green all the time, very abundant. So if we didn't have green in Hawaii like you do in the wintertime, it'd be really strange for us because we're not kind of adapted to that. So there's so many different aspects that plants provide for us, not only environmentally, but socially. Okay, so using that as a basis, there's things that go beyond this. So there's physical reactions, there's emotional reactions, and there are preferences. In fact, think about when you're a child. So think about when you were a child, or maybe when you go on the weekend, or when you have lunch. What do you think about, or where do you go? This is a real question. So what do you think about any special place when you're a child? Or if you go to lunch, or you go on holiday, where do you go? Real question. Anyone? Yes. Good. Forest. What else? How about you? Lake. Okay, forest, lake. What else? Mountain. So all those have nature associated with them. Now in Hawaii, what do you think the favorite place for Hawaiians to go to? Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the place for Hawaiians because we're surrounded by nature. It's so strange. But mostly every other society in the world, they want to come to Hawaii or someplace nature-oriented, which is very interesting. So what causes these physical, emotional, and preferences to plants? It's always fascinated me what causes this. Why do we have these reactions, and can we explain these? Then how can we incorporate these back into nature? All right, can you please look at the screen? What do you see? A flower. What kind of flower? Hibiscus. Okay, please close your eyes. Please close your eyes tight. Take a deep breath in. No peeking. No peeking. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. No peeking. Close your eyes, please. Okay, when I say 3, I want you to open it and look directly at the screen on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. What did we just see? Animals. Good. What else? Babies. Good. What else? Baby dogs. Good. What else? Spiders. What else? Monkeys. Snakes. Why did first go, and I heard breathing and ooh, very subtle. Why was there different reactions? How many have snakes and spiders as pets? 1.5. How many have ever had or seen babies? How about puppies? Okay, 2. Excellent. So this is interesting. No matter where I show this, there's all these reactions. But what causes these reactions? They're just pictures. They're just simple pictures that we just saw. Well, there's an interesting notion about this thing called biophilia. How many have heard of biophilia? Everyone please repeat biophilia. Biophilia. This sounds good, feels good. So E.O. Wilson came up with this notion about biophilia hypothesis, well, Stephen Keller and all these other scientists, and it really means the love of life, of living connection, and the affinity of human beings to other life forms. Now, there's some debate about this, but we're kind of all animals. mostly, and we're connected to our environment. But it's really amazing that even though we're animals, this connection to environment is so different. Almost any native peoples have this innate connection, and they haven't forgot it. But it seems like in these industrial-sized cities and societies, we've kind of come apart from nature instead of being a part of nature. And that's kind of fascinating. And if you look at it globally in cities, the notion of violence, of mental illness is on the rise within these communities, which is something. All right, so E.O. Wilson kind of describes this notion that this biophilia suggests that there's an instinctive bond. There's an instinctive bond that we have with nature and other living things. And we just kind of saw it in a little bit because we had these oohs and ahs and eeks about those pictures, right? He also says that this biophilia describes the connections that human beings subconsciously seek with the rest of life. So subconsciously, we're seeking these connections. In fact, he says that possibility, these deep affiliations are rooted in our biology. In fact, he says that after many, many, many eons of a socialized aspect, it becomes part of our DNA. And that kind of goes back to those pictures of why we and then eek. So some of it is socialized, but others is hypothesized that it's an innate reaction, a kind of a human response. So unlike those biophilias, those snakes and spiders are kind of phobias. Those are things that are scary. Why mostly, to most societies and most people, are snakes and spiders, why are they scary? Why are they scary? What do you think? They're dangerous because they can kill you. Now, you might not know anyone that's been killed by it, but we know through social experiences and through eons and eons and eons of time that if you got bit by this certain spider or by this certain snake, you'd probably die. So that's been kind of socialized throughout time. And what E.O. Wilson hypothesized is that after so many generations and eons of time, this becomes ingrained in our biology, which I think is a quite fascinating idea to think about. In fact, philias, he says, on the opposite, again, are these attractions, the positive feelings, these positive feelings that we have towards certain habitats, activities, and objects within nature, are philias. All right, so with these philias of nature, he says that human preferences for nature, while these refined through these experiences and culture, as I kind of described, are hypothetically a product of biological evolution. So this biological evolution. In fact, think about why we might be attracted to plants and nature and horticulture. Why do you think that we might be attracted to them? So real question. Yes. Right. And I didn't pay you before this talk, right? I didn't pay you to say that? That just... Wait, look after it. Okay. So yeah, so we need it for food, for protection. I mean, these are the key things for us to live, just like every other animal. It's interesting. But I think at times we forget this. All right. So with this whole notion of biophilia that E.O. Wilson describes and other scientists, why are most places around the world in industrialized cities, why are they like this? Where's the biophilia? What's up with this? Real question. Why is it like this? Why is there a lack of green? Any thoughts? Too many people. Excellent. Good. What else? Who can add to that? Efficient. Great. Perfect. Who can add to that? What else? What are the reasons why we lack green? Why don't we have like all this that we see out here? That thing called greed, I think I heard about it, and money. And things cost expensive. It's interesting on a landscape project, it doesn't matter if it's a corporate or a private, usually the landscape is the first thing to be cut or the last thing to be addressed, yet it's the most enduring thing of a project. Because once a building's there, it's pretty static. But that dynamic process of the landscape outside and inside is very progressive. And yet, for some reason, we don't address that. And I think one more aspect of this is knowledge and education. We mostly in school, at least in the States, we're not really taught about this connection about nature, about plants, how to do horticulture, how to do agriculture. Yet it's the main thing about every society, which I think we're lacking. Okay, so scientific studies have really been documenting a variety of ways of way plants affect people. And we only have like an hour and a half left, right? So I can't do all of them. No, we only got 20 minutes. All right. So I want to talk about a few studies that I think are pretty interesting, and probably most of you know about these. So Aldrich Ulrich, about 1981, he did a study looking at evaluation of arousal and calmness levels of natural versus urban scenes. He showed pictures to people and then had them look at natural scenes and then nature within cities and cities without anything. And it was interesting because he measured EKG or heart rate, and he also did EEG or brainwaves while people were looking at these pictures. And what he found out is that there's more beneficial influences from scenes with vegetation than urban environments on psychological conditions. So this is weird. So now in the 80s, we're finding out that actually there's benefits, but yet in that picture we just saw, in many cities around the world, there's this lack of nature, this lack of vegetation with us. The neat thing about this study, it was one of the first that did psychophysiological reading or physiological readings. So most kind of human interactions and human horticulture studies have done preferences, like what do you like, what you don't like, is very important. But he actually took it a step further to see how physiologically we're responding to nature, to stimulus. So this was pretty cool, right? Any questions, thoughts, comments? All right, we'll keep moving. Yes? Yes? Okay, good. All right. What do you see in this picture? Pond. Good. What else? Who can add to that? Park. Good. What else? How many would like to be there right now, and not because this is a very confusing lecture? How much would you like to be there? Raise your hand. Cool. Okay, 3 people. Excellent. All right. So how many would you like to be here? Even though this is a very non-stimulating lecture. What do you see in this picture? Parking lot. Good. What else? Cars. Good. What else? Shopping center. How many of you seen a place like this or been to a place like this? My question is, why? Everything's fine. You need to go there. So this is a dream for a car, right? Because you can go anywhere. This is really a carscape, but it's not a peoplescape. Okay, so real quick tangent. So there's a real famous, yes?
One question. Do you have any project in order to design parking lots to make it more green?
Yes.
To introduce greenery into these seed places?
We have a lot of discussions of that, and it goes down to what you said earlier is money. So it goes down to people want convenience and money, so the developers want more cars so they can have more people at the same time go to these places. And when you have greenery, trees, and planting beds, one thing, it costs maintenance to do those, and then it takes up space, which is very interesting. So I was very lucky to know Garrett Ekbo. Garrett Ekbo was a very famous landscape architect. And I had an amazing time to meet with him. And what he said is that a landscape architect and the adjoining allied professions, they are bridge makers between the developers of the world and then the kind of tree huggers of the world. And this is where this kind of comes in the fact that we have these developers, but if this was actually a green landscape, there would be a higher profit and people would want to go there mostly. So in the States and even Hawaii, we have a lot of big boxes. Just, I'm not sure if you have Best Buy or like electronic stores and stuff. And they're just huge parking lots, and they might have like maybe 6 or 8 trees planted that are like dying because it's just a brutal place. So with this, some other researchers looked at how plants media were able to remove VOCs, so volatile organic compounds. So this is coming inside now as we are at the moment. And what they found out is that these VOCs, by having plants and planting media, it takes away these things. It cleans it. It's like a ionic filter. But plants do that very naturally as they do outside. They also did another study looking at particulates. And they looked in presence of plants and relatively humidity in work environments. And what they found out is when plants were added, actually production rates were about 15% faster, higher humidity was in the rooms, and the people felt better, they performed better, and everything was much happier. In fact, the computers worked better because there was less dust in that clogged up the circuit boards. So looking at outside and inside environments, there's been a lot of research that's been established. Also, one of the most famous one, again from Ulrich, is that they looked at patients recovering from gallbladder surgery. How many have heard about this study where they had people inside the hospital and they were broken up into two different aspects? The patients were assigned to one room that had a view of trees and nature, and the others had a beautiful view of brick wall. It was like the best masonry you could ever see. And at the end, they found out that the people that had the view of nature had less pain medication, they left the hospital sooner, and they also had less complaints than the ones that had the brick wall. Very interesting. And also there's benefits because the hospital were able to turn over faster the rooms so they could actually theoretically make more money. And this was like a really huge groundbreaking study that changed things around the world within healthcare and other healing gardens. All right, last one I want to talk about briefly is that students and nature. There's a study looking at students in dorm rooms that had views of nature and others that had a view of the parking lot from their room. And they did all the subjective tests on them. And what they found out is that the students that had the view of nature actually did better on their tests, and they felt better. They were clearer thinking. So theoretically, they had higher grade point average, and they got done with school sooner. So if you're a parent, that's great because your student's getting in and out. And if you're a student, that's good because you're getting in and out faster to get out in the workforce. So imagine if everyone had views of nature, both at where you live and at your work, based on these few studies, and as well as the healthcare aspects. All right. So the reason for this, just to set a little stage of the background, that a lot of things have been going on in the past 20, 30 years. Okay. So then another study, what's really interesting, is looking at people's responses to tree forms in urban environments. And what people were shown was different aspects, the inanimate object, conical tree, globose tree, and spreading tree, and they were monitored about how they responded. Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, this inanimate object, that's kind of like not very pleasant or not very artistic. Well, some people might think yes or no. The idea that the researchers wanted to look at is if different forms of trees as well as inanimate objects had a difference. And what they found out, that when they asked people about those different aspects, here's the color code, and this is a preference from not so much to high. When they asked you, how happy are you looking at these objects? Statistically, people were not so happy looking at the inanimate object. But they were much happier looking at the trees, and even higher statistically happier looking at the spreading tree form. And then this was really kind of cool. The researchers reversed it. They asked them, obviously, how sad are you looking at these objects? Well, statistically, they were much sadder looking at, the inanimate object, and they were less sad looking at the trees, but they were very much less sad, good English, looking at the spreading tree form. So what this showed that there was actually more positive benefits to looking at nature, but the spreading tree form was more positive. Why do you think a spreading tree form would be more positive than all the other nature aspects? Because of biophilia. Ooh, okay, let's explore that. That's exciting. That gets me up. So, again, how many would like to be here right now? What is this place? Does anybody know? Central Park? Wow. How come everybody knows where this is? So based on what we just said about those research, how much do you think the people in all these windows right here, how much do you think they pay to look at this view versus the people on the other side? Is there a little bit of difference? How happy do you think they are, especially in the summertime, looking at this instead of looking at the other buildings? This is really significant. In fact, this has been some studies in Hawaii, because if you look at nature or that stuff, jet lag. Oh yeah, the ocean, you can pay a lot more from your room as opposed to looking at other rooftops or other parking lots. All right, so this is pretty cool. So with all this said and done, I did a study looking at plant color and how it affects people. And I wanted to look at, going back to Roger Ulrich, some psychophysiological aspects. Everyone say psychophysiology. Psychophysiology. Okay, keep that. That's going to be good. You can use it for next Thanksgiving or Christmas at the dinner table. It's great. All right, so this was interesting. What I did is that as a student, I like to shop and eat. It doesn't look like, but I like to eat a lot. And so have you ever gone to the supermarket and watched people pick veggies or fruit? Have you ever picked veggies or fruit at the supermarket? What do you do when you pick them? You eat them, but before you eat it, how do you choose? Smell it. Why do you smell it? Yes. How many squeeze the fruit when someone walks by? How many take it and look around? So I did the same thing. And when I was a grad student, I would go and spend a lot of time at the store because then I could not study. I think it's called procrastination. Do you have that here? But it was amazing because I could justify it because I had to eat. But I was so amazed how people would sniff and pick things. And I thought, well, how does that affect the landscape? Because you don't go pick and choosing, smelling when you're designing landscapes, commercially or residentially. So I thought, wow, is there a way to test that? So what I did is I got all these different tree colors, and I wanted to see if they had a difference. And so I had computer-generated trees and just asked people if they liked them or didn't like them. And what we found out is that people highly rated colors that were in the reds and greens, but not so much in the purples, the browns, and yellows. Why do you think people did not like to look at yellow or brown trees? What? Okay, good. What else? What'd you say? Yes. Why do you think they didn't like? It's the end of the year. Exactly. Or they were dying. Just very simple. Just a very simple test of what people liked, what they didn't like of trees. So I thought, okay, going back to Roger Ulrich, how would the psychophysiology, which we just said before, happen? So what I wanted to do is take a look at people's emotional and physiological responses to these tree colors. And these are actually the sample of the trees. The first question I get is, why did you use computerized trees? Why didn't you use real trees? Well, I did a lot of research, and it looked like when research is done with simulated trees or stick figures, your brain is actually able to adapt to it, and you think it's real. But if I showed real trees in real different colors, people would freak out. They think they're GMO or something kind of like weird mad scientists, and they would reject it. So I opted to do this computerized simulated. And going back to the other thing with the spreading tree form, I used trees that had kind of like a wide canopy. So again, we had these generated trees, and we had 18 different colors that were rated very highly, and then we did a questionnaire. And we recorded the physiological responses, and also we did this what's called psychophysiology, which you just said, and that measures action potential. So what actually happens before you actually smile or frown right now, there's actually neurons that are firing in milliseconds that are precognitive. And with the psychophysiology equipment that we have, we're able to tap into that and to measure that. And that is kind of distinguished that if you have like beans or something like cabbage the night before, you're kind of gassy. So we can tell that, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we did the psychophysiology aspects of people looking at these trees in these different colors. And so what we did is that we had viewing of these pictures, and while they were viewing these pictures, we looked at one, ECG or heart rate. And this is an indicator of attention. So ECG is the indicator of attention. The next physiological aspect we looked at was the EEG, specifically alpha brainwave. And this is an indicator of a wakeful relaxation. The third physiological aspect we looked at was EMG, or facial muscle reactions. And this is an indicator of positive or negative valence, kind of like smile and frown at a simple form. And then lastly, we looked at GSR, and this is galvanic skin resistance. And this is an indicator of calmness or excitement levels. Has anyone ever gotten kind of like sweaty palms before? And why do you think we get sweaty palms? Anyone ever think about that? Because I lie awake in bed, I think about these things all the time. So why do you think we get like sweaty palms? Sometimes, get sweaty here and other places. But why the palms? Anyone ever think about that? Some evolutionary theorists said that the reason why, if you have a little bit of sweaty, you get kind of tacky, right? And when that tackiness can help you maybe climb a tree back in the days in South Africa to kind of escape from things. Of course, if you get really, really nervous, scary, then you probably lunge for the lions or the tigers or something. So very interesting, that little aspect. Okay, so after we kind of measure people's psychophysiological reactions, then we're able to ask kind of the simple questions, what you like, what you don't like, demographics, all these kind of things. All right, so people sit down in this comfortable seat right here. We hook them up with electrodes or sensors, because we don't like to freak people out. So we hook up the sensors, And then we have kind of like a super bio feedback system. And then they look at a nice picture here, and this is green color. And then you see this has a nice smile. So as they look at all these pictures, their physiological recordings are being measured in real time. Then this is shut off, and they have another computer turned on, and then they see the same pictures, but then they can write down and kind of describe what they see. So we're getting two aspects of it. All right, so that all those trees, what we found out is that the millivolts section right here, this is baseline. Anything above this is arousing. We're just going to look at skin conductance with the time allotted. And it shows that all the trees were pretty kind of relaxing, kind of chilled. But yellow was actually almost arousing. Now, people didn't know if they were looking at flowers, fruits. They were just looking at these things, and they were being recorded in milliseconds what their reaction was. In fact, looking at all the tree colors again, they were all very calming except for yellow. And what this kind of supports is the past research that plants and nature is very relaxing, very restorative. And so now we're seeing a precognitive aspect that this is kind of true. Has to be a tendency of that. But it's interesting that why yellow was arousing. Well, it turns out that yellow is one of the colors of fruits and flowers in the South African plains where it's hypothesized that we kind of went from arboreal life to terrestrial life. So it's interesting that there's a little faint indication that something could be going on that's more than what's socialized. Any questions, thoughts? Yes? Yes, we present. Yeah. Yeah. So actually, it's a really, really good question. So we did other studies that they just look at color plates. And they just look at colors, and it's a whole different spectrum. In fact, blue was the #1 rated color for humans on just looking at color plates. Nothing has ever been done with plants. A lot has been done on flowers. In fact, a lot has been done on flowers socially. And socially, around the world, flower color is many different meanings. But as far as plant color, this has not been done before. So it was kind of interesting that, again, they weren't told what to do. And this data is just psychophysiological. This is just in milliseconds what the response is. And then their cognitive stuff was a whole other aspect. That was really kind of cool how they matched it. Does that kind of answer-ish a little bit? Okay, good. We can talk more. Okay. So what was really, really interesting, I get so excited. So people's physiological aspects were able to distinguish color or hues and saturation of hues of each color of the trees. So we had basically a hue or a color, and then we had a saturation lower and higher. And it showed that physiologically, people's responses showed that they could tell a difference. And this was kind of cool because there is a study done by Lucas in '98 about long-tailed macaques. How many of you been with, seen long-tailed macaques? What? I thought you said they knew about it. Okay, anyway, so long-tailed macaques are primates. And what's really, really interesting is they have the same vision as we have. They have trichromatic vision. Please say that, trichromatic vision. Doesn't that feel good? So this trichromatic vision we had. So I'm thinking, going back to that, smelling, touching fruits and stuff, is that these macaques are able to tell nutrient and fiber quality of the leaves when they look at them. So now this is explaining to me how and why we might be doing the sniffing, smelling, squeezing in the supermarket. We want to go to the other place. That's not proper. Anyway, so this was kind of cool because as I was doing my dissertation, literally it was very serendipitous. This book, I think, fell or something on the floor, and I picked it up. I found this study, and this study became one of the cornerstone theories of my research. And it literally happened like that. It was so bizarre how that happened. So this may be indicating the ability to detect nutrient food from plant color, which is very interesting. So, okay, with that, then how can we provide it to the landscape? So how we can do that? Well, some theories I came up with, possibly, is that maybe plants have calming color characteristics can be used maybe in hospitals to relax people, and people meaning, okay, the patients, of course, but how about if the doctors and nurses are kind of relaxed and chilled? Oh my gosh, that'd be so great, because then they're going to attend to the people that are sick better and also calm down the visitors. So this could be interesting. Parks. Maybe you could really relax people in parks with plants that have calming colors. Also, maybe in Cedar City developments, business districts. Maybe you want to slow people down so then they can window shop, so then they can really, dig into their pockets and buy something, possibly. So just kind of theories that possibly could be used. On the opposite, if we have plants of arousing colors, maybe they could be used on highways. And we have a very famous highway called H1 in Hawaii. It's called the H1 parking lot because it's always stopped with traffic. So very interesting is that maybe you could calm people or excite people along the highway with plant colors when they have these incidents. Maybe in sport complexes, you could actually fire people up, get them more excited about their team if you had plants with arousing places. And also in places of commerce, maybe the opposite. Maybe you want people just really excited that they're just like throwing money at shops instead of window shopping. So I like to take things in a theoretical context, but then how can they practically be integrated for designers and landscape people? And so this is one of the aspects. And I've actually used this in a lot of my designs I've done, and it's pretty spot on, which is pretty cool. All right, any questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, ready to keep going, keep going? Yes, break's coming soon. Okay, all right. So I would say that plants are the foundation. They're the key to kind of everything that we are about, both inside and outside. And I think that if we kind of look at this in a way that we can use theory, science, and practice of this biophilic responses to really kind of integrate opening a window to nature. Because it's really about landscape, which we see and we do both horticulturally and agriculturally, and people, yeah? We always forget that people aspect. So we should be a part of nature, not apart from nature. And then I think if we do this, we have landscapes that are really kind of cool, right? They're all gelling. But if not, then I think things kind of fall apart. They don't really work so great. And so if we looked at in the context of cities, again, if we have this notion of biophilia, this integration of nature with people, I think we have more vibrant, more sustainable, more enduring designs. And not, then I think not so much. It becomes very stagnant. Okay, so with that, any questions I'd be happy to entertain, and that's what I have for you. And danke very much.